the reason why the stock market's decoupled and Bitcoin is going up while the stock market's going down is because of this financial turmoil. People are consciously making the decision that they want to take their money out of the fiat system and put it into the crypto markets.
In today's video, Chief Market Strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com Gareth Soloway tells us all about his latest analysis of the charts as well as his predictions and price targets for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Soloway shares his opinion regarding high inflation rates, the stock market, the crypto market, and the Fed. Before listening to him, please ensure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, so the Fed meets Tuesday and Wednesday, and I do expect a 25 basis point hike. There's a small chance it could be zero if the banking situation really worsens, but it seems like it's being brought under a little bit of control. It's not being fixed, but at least we're not seeing more bank failures at this point in time. So I think a 25 basis point kind of hike makes the Fed save face. And if we remember, like, this is crazy, but just 2 weeks ago, Jerome Powell was out and he basically was like, hey, we might have to raise 50 basis points. So for them to go from him saying that in front of Congress to zero, that would be a little egg on his face, right? So my guess is they want to just do 25, just get a little bit out there. And then my guess is after that, they'll probably pause.
Let's jump right into the stock market. Primarily, they have been going together, that in the crypto market, maybe not so much in the last week, but what should investors be looking for?
Yeah, so, and you're right about that. Like in the last week, we've seen Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular surge, right? We've seen bounces in altcoins, but I love the fact that we're seeing the leadership take over in crypto because we're looking at best of breed that's really taking off. And what that tells us is that there is money in the financial system that trusts Bitcoin and Ethereum enough to go there for safety. And remember, you're seeing the reason why the stock market's decoupled and Bitcoin is going up while the stock market's going down is because of this financial turmoil. People are consciously making the decision that they want to take their money out of the fiat system and put it into the crypto markets. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make me think, hey, the bear market's over in crypto, but it certainly makes me think that Bitcoin now more than ever has a future in our society.
If there was ever a more bullish narrative for Bitcoin, this is it.
I mean, this is why Bitcoin was created, right? I mean, this is literally why. And in terms of the S&P 500, I am in the camp that I do think the S&P has a lot of downside to go. I do think that what we're seeing in the banking system is the tremors or the earthquakes before the big one, where the economy does spin into a recession due to these massive hikes in interest rates. And that's going to really hurt the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, because again, remember, a recession means people have less money to spend. Less money to spend means less earnings per share for stocks, and that's going to then bring the valuations down quite substantially in the next 12 months. I've been a bear since the beginning of 2022 based on the fact that anytime you hike rates, and this is the kicker, and I learned this in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, I even learned this in the dot-com crisis, is that when you hike rates this substantially, this quickly, you're going to break things, right? Things can't, you have conditioned, essentially the Fed conditioned us as investors to think that they would always be there to bail us out and they would never give us tough love. Well, they're giving us tough love and it's causing a breakdown in the system. So I do think that, again, you're in this situation where you have to continue to think that we're headed towards recession, and then that recession will usher in downside, at least in the stock market. I still think it'll bleed into crypto a little bit and bring about potentially lower lows in crypto. But again, lower lows for me is just a buying opportunity at this point. So I'll show you the S&P 500 here. So this is the S&P, we were just talking about it. And the S&P 500, basically, you could see that you had this wedge pattern. We had a lot of sideways chop. We've now broken below that lower trend line. And that creates a situation where we probably do ultimately start the bigger move down over the next month or so in the markets. I do think there could be a technical bounce back to that line, just that's the nature of charts. But I do think, again, we're headed down. Here's your October of 2022 low. That'll be technical support at 3,500. And then we're probably testing this 3375 level, which was your pre-COVID high on the S&P 500. So overall, I think by end of year, we could be down 20+% on the S&P from where we currently are, which would take us quite a bit lower, really close to 3,300, 3,000 on the S&P 500.
And what gives us that pivot? What takes us out of there? Obviously, we'll go down because less spending, less money in the market.
Right.
What's going to change 12 months from now?
Yeah, so I do think things are going to get so bad that the Fed will be forced to kind of pivot at some point. So, pausing rates is fine. I mean, that's nice to see. It kind of takes the stress off of us having to worry about how high they're going to go. But if you keep rates at 5%, let's say that's still high rates for the overall market and the overall economy. So it's going to be where the Fed has to really come to the rescue. And I don't think they do it in 2023, but in 2024, my guess is unemployment spikes to a level. It's not, everyone thinks it's going to be, oh, well, when inflation gets under 2% or back to 2%. I don't think it's going under 2% for like 5 years. So I think you're going to have elevated inflation, let's say at 3%. The Fed is going to hold back. They're going to say, hey, listen, we don't want to create a monster here of inflation roaring back, so let's not cut rates. Eventually the unemployment gets so high, let's say 7-8%, that they're going to be forced to come out and cut rates, and that then triggers the next buy rally in the markets.
Now, something that Bitcoin has, the stock market doesn't. We have the halving next year. That's going to cut that supply faucet in half. Is there is that anything to think about, for investors?
I mean, historically it has, right? Historically, it's been kind of the beginnings of the next bull cycle, if you will. And I do think that there's a possibility of that. I do worry that, again, because we're in this uncharted territory of Bitcoin, not having the support of the Fed with printing, that it could be an issue. But then again, as I said, maybe in 2024, the Fed does come to the rescue, and then that all kind of coincides. Just looking at the chart on Bitcoin here, I think this is a fascinating chart where you see that we've had this, recent move up that's been really dramatic. Even today, Bitcoin's having a great push. At least over the next, let's say, 1, 2, 3 weeks, this channel is what I'm following very closely. Can we get above? Can we stay above? If we can't, and we kind of hover here, I would start expecting the Bitcoin price action to come back in. I also wonder if, let's say the banking crisis does slow down and we do see some stability. Do we see the money that was put into Bitcoin because of that instability being pulled back out and going back into the fiat system? And this is going to be this is going to be a really interesting situation to watch how this reacts. How do investors that put their money from the fiat system into the Bitcoin market, how do they react over the next couple of weeks if we see stability come back?
So what are your next price targets for Bitcoin, bullish and bearish?
Yeah, so price target wise, I think ultimately I am on the downside here. I think as long as we are still up against this line, we have to respect it. So I'm looking for a pullback to the lower end of that channel, which is around the 20,000 level. Eventually, I think that actually breaks, and I do think we ultimately test over the next 2 to 3 months. We test that 15.7 level again. And again, hate to be bearish out there. I know so many people are bullish. I'm just not seeing the signals yet. For me to be bullish overall and think a low is in on crypto, and this isn't a bear market rally, we would actually have to establish ourselves back above 30,000, and we're not that far now. So I mean, it could be in the next few weeks that I change my tune, but again, it has to be 30,000 because that's your midpoint. All right, so if we look at psychological levels on the chart, remember that big move up in early 2021 and then the pullback, right? And the low of that pullback of that cycle was right at 30,000. And then we went up and we made a new high, and then we came back down. We consolidated here at 30,000 and finally broke lower. So to establish ourselves back above 30,000 psychologically would be huge for the Bitcoin market. And that would actually get me on the side of thinking, okay, maybe the lows are finally in. Until then, I've been through too many bear market rallies that fooled me. So I'm still on the bear market side until proven otherwise.